Rise Above 2020 is proud to present Pete Tiliakos, Principal Analyst at NelsonHall. With over 25 years' experience in the HRO and shared services industry, Pete has shared responsibility for HR services and technology research globally at NelsonHall, where he leads research in the areas of global payroll services, global EOR services, and HCM platform technology. Let's welcome Pete Tiliakos, who will be presenting on the topic Global HR Operations, the Next Decade.
Welcome, everyone. Pete Tiliakos here. Really happy to have you joining us. Quick, having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Sorry about that. So thank you again for joining us. I understand we have a number of countries represented today amongst us. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are calling in from or dialing in from. Welcome. I'm glad to have you with us. I'm Pete Tiliakos. I'm the HR Technology and Services Research Director at NelsonHall, and really excited to be kicking off the breakout sessions here at Rise Above with a presentation on a white paper that we worked with Neeyamo on regarding the global HR operations for the next decade. The presentation is really based around this white paper, and you can download that after this. And it includes a series of interviews that we conducted earlier this year with a large group of Fortune 2000 multinational firms across a wide range of sectors and geographies. We really wanted to understand how these firms were looking at HR operations and their ability to address expected volatility and uncertainty. Interestingly, we entered this just before the throes of the COVID impacts, and so it was really interesting to see what people were thinking at that time and how they were navigating. So we've saved some time at the end of the presentation for questions, and of course I'll be in the speakers lounge right after this if you have anything further that we don't get to. But let's go ahead and get started. Certainly, as we've seen, no doubt 2020 has been absolutely unpredictable, a lot of uncertainty. And we planned, like I said, to set out and conduct this study. It was early in the year, just prior to COVID really taking hold. And while we weren't in the throes of the pandemic just yet, the businesses and more importantly, HR, were already juggling so many challenges, whether it's, continued globalization, economic impacts, political pressures, social pressures. There's a lot of things coming into play that folks were having to juggle. And certainly we know the back end result of that is that HR too ends up juggling a lot of demands and a lot of opportunities to support the business through these things, whether that's finding talent, dealing with global compliance, which has become absolutely really very difficult, managing a better employee experience, and fundamentally creating a more diverse and inclusive organization. We see no signs of that volatility slowing. Like I said, I think many firms, today are recognizing that they've been operating on a very outdated and often poorly integrated, fragmented HR operation model globally, and the need to modernize that and future-proof both payroll and HR operations for more resiliency and agility as we move ahead to handle these sort of challenges is really going to be paramount. And so helping HR move away, these tools and these changes that are coming about, technologies that are being infused into the HR operation is really giving HR an opportunity to not only support the business better, but really give them an opportunity to react in a more predictive and proactive way to these challenges. So, we wanted to kind of unpack the way that HR was thinking about these things. And one of the things that was interesting was that while all of the respondents, or the vast majority, told us that HR transformation was critical to their organization's future, roughly 80% of them indicated that their operating models weren't suitable to handle the expected volatility, many of those challenges that we sort of showed on that first slide. And when we look further into the top areas of opportunity cited by respondents within their HR operations, some of the key gaps centered on their ability to support employee inquiries and help the employee with challenges in their HR lifecycle. Less than half of them were offering a mobile-first experience, and often few had confidence in their employee inquiry support experience. The ability to actually meet the employee's needs, and certainly, the ability for HR to be a more strategic partner. More than 60% of them told us they lacked access to reliable and actionable people insights. In fact, often, they lack the ability to have a reliable global reporting at all, particularly in multinational firms where extended long-tail footprints sort of get left behind and fragmented from the broader model. And lastly, they pointed to a lack of overall agility within HR operations and processes to really be able to quickly adapt and maintain resiliency for the next big challenge that comes across. With businesses often being able to move fast as only as fast as HR operations can support, the need to transform for resiliency is absolutely critical as we go ahead. When we dug a little deeper into the outcomes that firms were seeking from transformation initiatives, it's centered on probably two key areas. First, operational excellence, right? Enabling a truly global operating model, one that can harmonize and support the entire worker footprint around the globe from a single modern experience. Supporting regulatory compliance requirements that are rapidly intensifying around the globe. This was key during the pandemic response. We saw those that had access to more reliable data and on-demand data globally were much better positioned to respond to the government support that was coming about to keep their operations sustained and keep their businesses afloat. So those that had a good modern solution, harmonized, the ability to get at their data very quickly, were able to quickly turn around and respond to those things and get much needed help. They also told us that they were looking to incorporate more next-gen technology that can drive straight-through processing and zero touch for HR, basically or fundamentally enabling greater efficiency and effectiveness in removing the administrivia for HR and allowing them to shift focus to more strategic work and strategic activities. Things like the access to reliable, globally harmonized on-demand data and insights is critical for HR to be able to support the business, whether that's workforce insights globally at all, or predictive capability to head off the next thing, but also the ability to understand how their compliance is performing and ensure that it is meeting the requirements. And then secondly, but equally as important, elevating the employee experience and boosting employee engagement. We fundamentally see the user experience or the employee experience is really becoming the use case for HR transformation. And particularly now that we have folks going from a work from home trend into a work from anywhere norm, the need to remain constantly connected and informed is going to be essential. Enabling a mobile first experience, meeting employees where they work through the technology channel of choice is absolutely paramount. Giving them the power to own their data, to own their career, and really take charge and take those things forward so that HR doesn't have to be involved in every update. And fundamentally, augmenting them to drive greater efficiency and effectiveness, and personalize the outcomes to how they're needing them in their own journey. I'm a big fan of technology personally. If you talk to me, I kind of light up when we get to these things. And I like this slide because in the report, we really wanted to understand the sentiment around various technologies coming into to the marketplace, the digitization of HR, how are firms thinking about that, and what do they see as being most impactful for them in terms of turning the corner and future-proofing their operations. Certainly cloud platforms are fundamentally at the core. They are the launch pad, if you will, to the digital transformation that is needed, the starting point to modernizing your user experience, harmonizing your processes and data, and fundamentally future-proofing HR for the next decade and the next COVID-19 impact. Certainly, that needs to be globally centralized, ideally country localized, and tightly integrated across countries and across the modules to make sure that data is flowing well. And very, very key for the user experience, but also, for making sure that local specific compliance and data harmonization and analytic insights are there and possible. And that fundamentally, the data is reliable, and there's not a need to have to bring together a bunch of spreadsheets and hope that you get the answer right. Real-time workforce analytics, global workforce analytics, absolutely vital. The ability to tap into the information, the workforce data, and actionable insights are a must-have and are going to be essential in workforce planning, and really, getting ahead of the next event and maintaining the continuity of the business, the connectivity with the employees, and maintaining your HR operations in compliance and maintaining that employee experience. Certainly AI and machine learning is one that I think is having a profound impact on HR. I love what it's doing for payroll. It's really bringing about a ton of automation to the process. But more importantly, it's augmenting users and giving that level of personalization to their experience to meet their unique needs, and also power the organization power the predictive capabilities for the organization through deep learning and machine learning, and provide that dynamic detail that they need. Mobile first design, I think this sort of goes without saying. Any solution that's being built today is really being built with a mobile capability first. The ability to conduct business where you are is paramount. And now that we have everyone sort of spread apart across the globe, at home in different locations, it's more critical than ever to keeping people connected, giving employees the tools they need to own their careers, own their data, and again, allow HR to return focus to things, to strategic things for the business versus giving them, mountains of data to be updating, when the employees at the end of the day, really want to own that and take charge. Another thing that I think is really beautiful about all of the technology that are coming into place are just the integrations, APIs, microservices, and things that are creating extensibility for HR. It really is a key benefit to modern cloud platforms. And as we move forward, it's going to enable firms to really achieve connecting and adding those tools and extended services that can fill gaps in their operating model and solve key use cases that are specific to their business. It's going to be very, very essential. And we're beginning to see those become more and more dynamic, bringing about a better integration and more embedded capabilities as you move along. And then, of course, the continued infusion of next-gen enablers, such as IoT, augmented reality, and maybe even longer term, more blockchain we think will also extend as well. They did rate kind of lower on the list when you looked at some of the things that firms are looking at. IoT, I think, is really doing well because we're starting to see some use cases that are pushing information to employees, like pay slips, reminders to get their time submitted, things like this. So I think we're going to see more and more of those as well. Augmented reality and virtual reality, I think, is going to be a little bit more longer term. It's certainly already making an impact in the learning space. Employees are able to leverage the capability to certainly take their training to a different level and give them the realistic training that they hands-on realistic training, but also things like blockchain as well. Limited use cases maybe right now. I think a lot of it might be more on the credentials and validation side, but I think there is an opportunity for blockchain to really maybe be the way in which we exchange data at some point in the future. And so I think that we saw buyers there was a little bit lower sentiment towards blockchain, but I think it's just because there maybe is a misunderstanding for what it can do and the possibilities that it can provide. So fundamentally, I think it's important to say that in a nutshell, there are a number of different technologies that come together to really create the transformed organization, and each of these play a different role in how they do that. One of the things that we're seeing very, very heavily interested in is just the touchless capabilities, right? Frictionless capabilities. And that's where, again, some of the IoT comes into play, the connectivity, 5G, other things like this, giving employees the ability to seamlessly enter the workplace, have their time tracked, have their attendance tracked, and not have to clock in, clock out, not have to touch a screen, something like this. So I think we're going to see more and more of those things as well as things like digital wallets, on-demand pay. A number of these things are really coming about that have really been doing well before COVID, but the use cases proved themselves out during that time. And I think we're going to see those things those on-demand tools being much more prevalent. Okay. So let's just talk about maybe some of the keys to success in HR transformation that we see and some of the things that we derive from the discussions. First and foremost, I think before you set out on an HR transformation journey, I think it's important to understand that no path or trajectory is going to be the same. Every organization is going to be different. Every organization is going to have different challenges and needs. And often the path isn't necessarily straightforward. It takes some time to get there. And so I think that's the first thing to understand. Comparing yourself to another organization, sometimes they may be on a very different path with very different unique circumstances. It's important to understand your journey is your journey, and it is going to be different. I think it really starts too with having a very clear vision for the outcomes and the KPIs that the initiative is meant to deliver. Really having a solid understanding for what we're trying to achieve, and where we're trying to get to will be important. And pairing that with support from your senior leadership and key stakeholders from across the organization will greatly fuel success. One of the things I want to also kind of emphasize here is that, all the best technology on the planet, if you adopted everything on that last slide, it's not going to just simply transform HR because you implemented those things. You really have to do some work. Simply automating existing processes is not transformation. That's really just taking bad ways of doing things and automating it. Moving those old habits to the cloud and adding RPA just won't get the results that you need. One of the things I think that we hear often when we look at buyer feedback on those that have set off on transformation initiatives, you'll look and you'll see, well, they've implemented the top system or they've adopted some of the top solutions, but downstream they didn't do the change management element and didn't adopt the technology and work with the technology in the way that they should have. A great example of this is we'll often see firms tell us, well, we're a little behind. We have mobile capability, but we're behind. We haven't rolled it out. Culturally, we haven't pushed it. We haven't adopted it. And then they obviously aren't getting the results that they need. And you see that in the feedback. So just like I said, just moving your habits to the cloud and these technologies won't do it. You really do have to have a really strong change management process and a fundamental focus on how can we leverage the investment to the fullest advantage to bring about the change that we need. Certainly, there needs to be that process reengineering and rethinking. And we saw a lot of emphasis from firms on lean and Six Sigma, and as well as fundamentally just rethinking the way they were doing things and using the technology to their best ability. And fundamentally, like I said, there must be real change supported by comprehensive change management in order to really get you there in the end. All right, so that brings us to our question point. I think I'm actually a little bit early. I ran through this a bit, I think. So hopefully, if there are any questions, let's go ahead and grab those now. If not, I will be in the speakers lounge in a few moments, and we can certainly pick up there. But any questions from the audience at this point? I will add too, if you'd like to download the report, the white paper, it is in the event portal. You can pull that down there as well. And in the description, you can find for this event, you can also find the link to connect with me shortly after this as well, if you'd like to maybe answer some questions there. Like I said, thank you for joining. I'll see you in the lounge, the speakers lounge, and happy to answer any questions there you might have.